Super. Excellent. So I'll just do a quick welcome in case any of my students have joined us. I can't really, I don't want to go look at who's here because I'll lose my setup.
Sure,
anyway, welcome to our critical play stream. That's the subtitle of the course, but this week is the real critical play week. We're going to be looking at Oiligarch, which I inaccurately described as Oiligarchy.
I was really worried that you just thought I didn't know how to spell it.
No, I didn't know how to remember the name. It is a game about domination of petrochemical industries from a company that has industries in their name, a design group rather. They're called Molleindustria, which I guess in Italian is something like Molleindustria. I'm not really sure. Don't speak Italian. M-O-L-L-E, Industria. And they are a radical art collective who do game design out of Italy and other places in Western Europe. So, okay, Ryan, and I should say also for the record that we're kind of doing this as a cold play, don't think of the band, but it's an exercise in unprepared play. We're going to make our way into this game, Ryan and I. This is Ryan House, who is a doctoral student in the English department and a game theorist and an experienced games educator.
There I am.
Okay. So let's get started.
All right, cool. This is Oiligarch by Molleindustria. As Stuart mentioned, I've never played before, but I really just sort of wanted to jump into it and see what the game is presenting to us as its systems of sort of existence, really, right? We're dropped into this quickly already moving system. We're running up on an oil shortage. Okay.
So look up in the upper right-hand corner, and you can see that the time is moving. In fact, it's moving very rapidly. It looks like it's moving a month per second, or a month per half second.
So have oil slicks extractors headquarters. Build oil extractors on oil slicks to maximize your productivity. Visit your headquarters to upgrade and buy new equipment. Oh, and try not to destroy the environment, I suppose. Okay, cool. If you want to extract resources deeper.
Washington is where Atlanta is. Just saying.
We'll need to lobby against nations' governments, right? Okay, and then trade routes. These are the routes. Okay, so a quick little introduction into sort of what our mechanics are, I suppose. Extracting the oil, lobbying for the oil, and then moving the oil.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I mean. Okay. Now what?
Why are we seeing modest oil at the top now? I thought we were. Did you change to a different company somehow?
I haven't done anything but click through those. What I assume to be the sort of. We got a hair tickle. Sorry. What I assume to be the introduction. The.
Yeah. There was no training level for this.
Not at all.
We dropped right in. Yeah.
That was it. So I'm clicking around. I can't really maneuver these except for, I guess, indirectly over here.
Okay, by these you meant what?
Oh, these bars, right? The environment I have. I'm doing well on the environment because I'm just not doing anything, which I guess is a way of winning.
Okay, but that also tells us that so in terms of critical design, right? So the game built a do no harm ethic. So inaction is linked to positive environmental effect, or at least an absence of harm.
And so, I think dropping us in and making us read that as time is going lets us sort of we fall into that, right? I have no idea what to do, but I already can see that doing nothing is good for the environment.
I'm still tripping on the map because Cuba is the size of Florida.
It's forced perspective. We're looking at it's actually isometric, even though it looks 90 degree. Okay, so I can click on these. Oh, here's my headquarters. So okay, I guess let's start with the headquarters, right?
Okay. Yep.
Improving the world through innovation, our company consistently delivers breakthroughs in petrochemical research, empowering and enriching our users' lives. We keep your lights on, your tires rolling, and your planes flying through the air. That's just what we do. Okay, so I can buy more equipment, although I don't know if I have any money anymore.
Buy more equipment.
Or I can upgrade. So I think we're nearing sort of.
You can pay a $5,000 bribe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You missed that opportunity.
Did it pop up? Oh, I see. Okay, so I think maybe then that I'm fired. I just.
Oh my God, it's over.
So it's almost, sort of a game about keeping these balls juggling as long as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it just kicks you out. There's no. Let me jump back into that. Which I guess
save.
I'm not sharing my screen anymore.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna close stream. Right.
Oh wait, I'm coming back. Can you see it now? Fantastic.
Sorry, I can. That. Right. Well, so another reflection here.
Sure.
Before you start another run. Oops. No.
I did that.
We'll be out of here in a second. Fast-paced game.
Yeah.
That throws a lot of things at you quickly. One of the messages, obviously, of the design here is complicated matter, right? Oil politics and the business. There's a lot to monitor, a lot to know about, and it's a crisis. This game is a crisis because look, how long did it take us to get kicked out? Maybe a minute and a half. So the whole thing seems to run in crisis mode.
Yeah, probably about 5 minutes actually. I wasn't timing.
Was it that long?
I mean, yeah, we've been recording for about 6.5. So
okay, yeah, all right. Well, 5 minutes.
I think
felt faster than that.
Rita Rayleigh specifically pinpoints that 5-minute mark as being particularly effective. Yeah.
Really?
Get in there, make them think for 5 minutes, let them leave, and it's gonna stick. It's gonna stick with them.
Rita Rayleigh, R-A-L-E-Y, is a major authority on sort of serious games and what we call polemical games that make a point. And is somebody that Ryan and I have both read her work and thought about it a lot. I'd forgotten about the 5-minute thing. Not sure I knew that. Okay, we're back in. So we're Modest Oil again. What should we try to do this time?
I think I want to let's get in on this equipment. So I don't know.
Purchase oil slick.
Oh, maybe I need to. Oh, I see. Okay, so they start me out with this already. I need to.
Something's going down. Oh, oil storage.
Oil storage. Okay, so
it's going down.
I sent out 2 trucks to Recia, Veracruz, and 1 truck to Houston. Okay. And my oil shortage.
Storage.
Thank you. Went low. So I see that I need to probably balance this with these other things, right? I see now how to make the things move.
There you go.
Move the oil. So maybe we could go to. Let's try to go to Miami. It seems sort of long, but maybe I don't know if the choice of truck really affects the outcome.
The pace of this game really doesn't allow for reflection. You basically just have to, no. Which is, I got to say, it's not what I was expecting.
I expected it to be a little bit more of a thinker, to be honest.
Yep, that's what I thought.
The other one is very much like that too. You're managing a city, and I don't want to get too much in it to take away from this, but
right, because I think we all
throws
have
you in and makes you jump.
Right, we have SimCities and the SimCity and the Sims kind of in mind. At least I do. My generation. And those are not games that run you over in quite the same way. They can. But
so I was able to dig deeper. Spend $200 to effectively raise my oil reserves. My storage is getting fuller, so I'm going to go ahead and ship out another truck. Let's go ahead and do 2 because I've got deeper pockets now. Oh, it sends it down real fast. And then maybe we can.
You basically are a 1-tank operation, I guess.
Oh, okay. Here's my money. So I am so far away from even being able to buy this stuff, but I can upgrade.
Right.
Extraction speeds. Yeah. So let's do that.
Yeah.
And let's use more hoses. Oh my God! Look at that. It was just Oh, it was going down. Ooh, it went up a little bit. Okay. The money goes up when the red dots get to the destination town. Okay.
Right, because you've moved oil.
I see.
Interesting that it takes trucks as a means of transferring oil. I guess that happens.
I can. I just gotta. What was that? What was that noise? Was
There's
that
an
from the
alert
game?
of some kind. That's right. How much of this is real life? You're fired.
I don't even know
Maybe
what I
lasted
did.
Longer. Maybe.
Instead of a bunch of hoity-toity green energy. Okay,
And
so
you don't
I've
deserve a nice-looking lose screen either. It says. Is there anything that we can click on? Nope.
Oh yeah, no, nothing I could click on.
Okay.
I'm gonna get to the beginning of this again, and maybe we can pause for a second. And...
Yeah, if you could find a pause button, that might be helpful.
Yeah, that's a good question.
But it's entirely possible that Molleindustria did not put a pause button in.
I know
because,
escape was going to take me all the way out, even in the middle of the game.
Thing for police to do.
Oh, I thought we had a visitor.
Might have.
Oh gosh, dang it. Yeah, it takes me all the way out.
Takes you all the way out.
I do. It's almost roguelike to me, this game design, because I'm going through and it's happened so quickly that I'm just learning a little bit more each round and getting a little bit further along.
Right.
So this time I know I'm going to focus on doing the things I did and also lobbying. I'm not quite sure what the meter underneath the cities indicate. It might be price because there's a barrel and a red arrow, but it might be reserves. I don't know. But I really think. Oh, sorry, that was.
No, go ahead.
I really think that sort of, almost problem-solving reflection, trying to think about what that actually means in this game, is getting us to think about the ways that all of these things interact with one another. Well, what could it be?
Right.
Is it price?
Yeah.
Is it storage?
Right.
And if it is that, then we can start thinking about, well, then how do we affect that? And
Right.
I think this is a really great example of just the ways that digging into these games, almost, just blank. Well, I say almost blank, but there's certainly a lot of. I'm bringing with me a lot of experience in video games, and I know what to click and what to look for. But sort of all of this together is really getting us to a grander purpose. That back to that, we can almost think of the roguelike as a thought process too, right? As a process in adding layers on our thoughts that we might initially have of this as we learn more about it.
Right. Roguelikes, for those watching this later, that's a kind of game. I mean, I guess a lot of folks in this class probably know what that means, but some of you don't. They're games that are configured in real time. So there isn't like a set place that a certain element of the game will always be. They're variable. They move around. And so every time you run the game sort of puts itself together differently. They're called roguelikes because there was originally a game called Rogue that was actually built, I'm going to say the 80s, but I think it was the late 70s.
Oh wow!
On mainframe computers, that pioneered this kind of design. Now this is not formally a roguelike.
I don't even know if I would say it's a roguelite, but to me, it's sort of. I could see sort of a similar conceptual sort of process.
Well, it has the same, sort of throw them in at the deep end.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and
kind of thing. Yeah,
progress through failure, kind of thing.
Yes. Well, yeah. Although other classic element of roguelikes is that there's permadeath.
Right.
When you lose the game, you've lost everything. And that's true here.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're out, you have to start a new game.
Yeah. You have to start a new program. Right. Like you have to start a new instance of the program. Okay.
Right. So that actually is roguelike, and it started again. Okay. So I'm going to shut up and let you figure out what you're doing.
I think I've got a bit of a handle on it. I'm going to make some routes real quick, get those going. Not too much too quick. Actually, just that one.
The pace of this game is is merciless.
So, I don't have enough money yet, I see, because I'm not... Well, I'm sending those trucks way too far off.
Ah.
So I'm going to send this one to Houston. That'll get us some quick cash. There we go.
Hi, Wren.
Now we can...
And I don't know who Polar Atom is, but welcome.
Hey, y'all. Welcome, welcome. We're trying to figure out how to play this game. So, okay, so I've got some money. I'm going to bribe Houston now and invest some... I'm going to fund oil-based aviation, automotive, and heating infrastructure in Houston for $10,000.
And I don't know whether Matthew and Wren, whether you guys are able to talk. If you're welcome to, if you can figure out a way.
They're both muted at the time.
Ah.
There we go.
It's able to talk.
Hey.
Excellent. If you have insights, feel free to share them. We're blundering away at this game.
Repeat what you said, Matthew. You were really low. I turned you up.
He just said he can talk.
Just said I can talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds better. You're still a little bit low.
I don't know if either of you have played this game before.
Yeah.
No.
Do you have any experience with Molleindustria games? Oh.
Maybe Wren does more than me.
Okay, so this guy's... Oh, okay, I want to dig deeper. I see. That noise was letting me know. Let's dig even deeper.
It's a cash register noise, so...
Yeah. We're digging to the center of the earth here.
Okay.
Let's go one... Let's just... As deep as my pockets will allow. My God. So I bet there is a point of diminishing returns there, right? Like, eventually, I'm just wasting money. Instead of purchasing these other... Oh, I'm out of slots. I only have so many slots because I bet I have to expand oil rights for $100,000. Requires sentiment at 70%, and I am losing sentiment like... you wouldn't believe. But, look at this. I can just... That's an easy fix. I can just...
What did you do? Did you make a bribe?
I just bribed all of these American cities, and my public sentiment in each went up. See, bribed $500. Still not at 70 probably, but
No, he didn't name it Modest Oil. It came up that way.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah.
Well, okay. So rhetoric, right? I mean, there are obviously meaningful choices in the design of this game. And it's a sim, but I don't know whether Matthew and Wren, whether you guys have this impression too, but to me, what immediately hits me is how fast this thing runs. And you'll see shortly, I think, how little time we have to play before the game kills us.
It's interesting, and it reminds me of a paper by Joseph Dumet about game design as STS research, because the game he designs in that class is about fracking, and it's about putting and a game about put yourself in the POV of a soulless corporation has all of these effects of giving you that perspectival knowledge in which things that maybe you think are morally questionable actually become intriguing or compelling when you're able to set in the perspective of a corporation like that.
The classic instance of that is that infamous game where you have to pack bodies more efficiently into rail cars to go to a concentration camp. You know that game?
I've heard
the name of that game. Yeah.
There's another one called it's I don't know. Yeah, those kind of games.
Yeah, those games. Yeah. But I mean, to some extent, any simulation game sort of takes a step in that direction because, simulations are abstractions. They take us away from life contexts and bring us to number.
Okay, so I bet I'm gonna lose if any of these run out. Essentially,
If you hit 0 on any, you're about to
like
zero
I've got to
something.
keep public sentiment up, and I'm gonna. That's just not really working out for me very well.
Yeah, aesthetically, it's not so distinct from like a rudimentary civilization game, which is kind of fascinating in its own right. It's using the same color schemes and meters that you'd expect out of Civ.
Really,
Yeah.
it's been so long since I played a Civ game. That doesn't work for me. But yeah, I take it you're right.
It's certainly. I mean, in doing that, it's also asking us to interface with this game like we would those games. And I think in a lot of ways is relying on ludo literacy of those kind of games in order to make sense of this,
Yep. Right. Yep. You've played one game, you sort of know how to play them all. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting that the common green interface sort of it elides or erases all other complex ways of thinking about this region. Like when anybody sees those memes about how anything on Mexican television always has this very heavy amber lens over it. And so what could this interface in its use of its palette and its simplification of a complex region be telling the player? Well, one thing to do is to flatten everything into a certain kind of nexus of relations around production and consumption of oil, of course.
Right.
There's also one which maybe sees the question of borders or Cuba and Havana as not really as separated in terms of the landscape that the oil corporation imagines or sees the world as.
Yeah. I remarked earlier before you guys joined us that Washington it's actually not where Atlanta would be. It's sort of south of Atlanta. So there's this weird foreshortening of that particular region of North America. It's the shores of the Gulf. That's that's the body of water there, the Gulf of Mexico.
And I'm trying. The DC is just slapped right there. That hurts my Virginia brain. What? The Chesapeake Bay, right next to the Gulf of Mexico.
All right, I am making some serious money now, and I've petitioned Washington to let me. It looks like drill offshore, and it's also I don't know, maybe it's just offshore. But I still don't
what are those black mushroom-like things?
Those are the oil slicks.
Oh, those are oil slicks, right?
Yeah. So I've just purchased more equipment.
So it has pollution effects in the game too. At least in terms of oil slicks.
I'm not sure that kind of oil slick is going to work in the water. I'm afraid to spend that kind of money.
You can buy oil slicks? What?
I mean, I guess it's like buying the land that we what else could be on? I don't know how oil works. Clearly.
Yes. Well, this may not be the game to learn it from either. And at some point we'll put some more play in, but at some point I want to pop out kind of and ask what we are learning from this game or how this game shapes thinking. Derek has run dry.
I've got it. I've dug deeper. I've fixed that problem. But I like that.
Right. Whoop, there we go.
What happened?
You lasted longer that time.
Everything was going so well.
I'm
well,
just
someone
trying
please
to
think of the shareholders. This is the only difference here.
Yeah, there is a difference. Okay.
So that's. I guess I didn't make enough money somehow. Which
think of the shareholders.
I gotta, that's just another thing that I have to keep track of.
So those are different messages each time.
I think just the very end was.
Right. Okay. Wren and Matthew, we get apps kicked out of the program, not just the game, when we lose. So
I have to do the whole thing.
Well, I'm scared, and just boots you right out.
Permadeath with an attitude is what it is.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I kind of want to chew on the semiotics of that too. And for all I know, it's just an incidental design choice, but maybe not.
Well, I mean, you're stuck in conversation with similar games that are doing that to show you that there's a metalepsis happening, that some character or force within the game is aware that it's a game and says, "No, get out of here." And like, so even if they don't mean to do that, there's a rhetorical thing that goes on where it's like, yeah, actually, the shareholders do know you're playing a game, and it's time for you to stop playing the game.
For the tape, as they say in British crime drama, for the tape, metalepsis, for my students, is a level crossing. So it's like when a character in a play refers to herself as a character in a play, knows that she's a character in the play. Or, in Hamlet, when Hamlet decides he's going to put on a play inside a play. That's a metalepsis, and that's what Wren was just talking about. Is okay, did the board make us stop playing the game? And that's the kind of thing I was after. That would, by the way, not to lecture too much, that would be a legitimate critical design move, according to Mary Flanagan, because she wants games to invite us to think about what it means to play a game, right? So you're playing a game, it kicks you out, you find yourself saying, why was I kicked out? There you go. Critical design at work.
Also, the way that design choice plays down the ease of repeated play as well. It would be very easy for it to just start you again, and then you just do the same thing again and get better at it. But what does it mean for it to be a one-time experience, short and brutal?
And again, before you guys joined us, Ryan had this, immediate flash and said, "Hey, this is like a roguelike. It's like a roguelike."
Yeah.
And it isn't strictly a roguelike because, it's the same map setup each time, but the permadeath aspect is carried over.
And that's sort of repeating the action and sort of incrementally getting a little bit further each time.
Yeah. A little
Which
further.
I think that part might be a little bit more. This is too video game nerdy, but that one might be more an aspect of the roguelite than the roguelike, because roguelike is just one try over and over again. There's no powering up really. I mean, I guess you learn, but because of the randomness, it doesn't translate the same. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no. That's right. And the other context for this game, as you were saying coming in, is that it was you see the words Ludum Dare 48 as on the map, Ludum Dare, and that's not dare, that's dare from Latin. Ludum Dare is a Latin phrase meaning to give a game, and it's the name of a competition, a game design competition that continues to run. 48 means it's the 48th in the sequence, so there are many of them every year. And typically independent game designers come to these things or enter these things virtually. They build games, and this is a way to, build a game and get it out in the world and have people notice it.
Ludum Dare 50 starts on April 1st.
There you go. Yep. So you want to do one more run here?
Sure, yeah. So
maybe before we do, we should think: is there some intervention or change of strategy we should try?
I had an idea while the question you asked earlier. I can't quite remember how you asked it, but about what it's making me think of, and how all of these systems working together make me think. And I immediately thought back to, of course, the Russian-Ukraine situation and this idea that Russia is still selling the world oil, right? And we really can't help but to buy it. Or we can, but clearly there are consequences. So
we can in the U.S., but it's harder when you're Germany.
Exactly, and I'm thinking as I'm playing this game, having to just keep track of all of these different variables and different metrics of success, and it's almost impossible in this fast-paced environment. And so trying to think about how to solve this, dependency on Russian oil.
Yeah,
you've got to work it into this matrix of international relationships and cause and effects.
Yeah. And again,
that's kind of where
it's so. This stream has now become a bunch of us sitting around talking to each other, as streams sometimes will do. And we will, I promise, more gameplay at some point.
We are. Oh, yes. Do you see the game?
Oh, yeah, I would if I clicked the button. Now I do. Okay, back to game. I was just going to say, you know, the world around us right now with the crisis in Ukraine, you know, has the same sort of, it's happening, you know, a month a second, as it were. You know, it's all happening very fast, and it's scary, and you know, it's a crisis. And it's making me think, why do we want to play games about crisis when we are living through an actual one?
And there's a weird third bent going on too, and I think maybe if you have any students who like economics, this statement might make them happy. The other side of this is it's not just hard for countries to decouple themselves from Russia's oil. It's hard for Russia to have an economy that is run on oil. I mean, it's single good markets are extremely volatile, hence you losing all the time.
Right. Well, in effect, you know, what Putin is doing is playing this game, right? With a war on the side, right?
Let's hope he is better at this game than I am.
Let's hope he's not.
Well, sure. Slightly better. I mean, I think I would melt down into a catastrophe in about 3 rounds, so
Yeah.
let's hope for no catastrophes. Okay, so my tactic here is to try to extort this one resource as much as I can. I've dug as deep as I can. Well, not as deep as I can, but as deep as I'd like to. I'm getting my oil storage back up. I'm gonna get another truck and try to sell to the routes that are closest to me. I don't know. So it looks like Hiroka Veracruz. I'm sorry. Butchering
Heroica
that.
Veracruz.
Say it again.
Heroica Veracruz.
Heroica. Okay. And then Houston. There's sort of Houston and Miami. See these lines. I don't know if they are supposed to indicate something like some sort of hierarchical order. But I'm playing it like they are. So let's go to Miami, even though it's so way over there.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the iconography here is kind of puzzling. Those look like they ought to be sliders.
So it's worth noting here that a bribe seems to take me all the way to the top. So it's not really useful to maybe bribe all of my people at once. I've just bribed all 3 of these, so they'll stay happy for a little while. I can bribe these in just a moment after I've got a little bit more money.
There's definitely learning going on here. I will say, if Wren and Matthew, if you haven't picked this up yet,
Houston.
From the top, Ryan's been learning a lot quickly. Right? If you sort of go back to the minute we started.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, it looks like part of the way this game creates complexity is by giving you a ton of menus that you can't look at all at once.
Totally, right? Yeah.
So you're going to have to juggle those, and you have to learn a strategy. It's so different from Five Nights at Freddy's, where you have to learn how to juggle cameras in order to assess threats.
Mm-hmm. Yes. At least it doesn't do that to us. Yeah. At least it's remaining within the picture plane, as it were. Yeah.
You never have to worry about where something's going to pop up. It's popping up in the same place. You just have to go, oh, shoot, that meter. That's 0 now. I better do something about that.
I think what's really interesting to me about this is this price meter here. I'm really at a loss for how I'm controlling that. I mean, clearly it's something about...
You mean the upper right-hand corner?
Yeah.
I know what that is. That's your stock value.
Right. But I don't know how to control it as a game mechanic. It almost seems a little bit like a secondary mechanic, you know?
That's what it is.
I'm not doing it directly. So, I mean, clearly there's a balance between supply and demand here, and I have just biffed it.
Right.
Because I stored up a lot of, and then I just let it go, which tanked my price.
I think prices, stock price is what they call a first-order derivative. It rolls out of what you do, but you can't push a button and change it.
Right. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
But I
may
think
have made that up.
interestingly, and maybe this is where the game is getting us, is that seems to be the most important thing, right? Because I can have
Well,
public sentiment all the way up, I can have environment all the way up, but if that price value drives all the way, I'm fired, and I gotta go.
Right.
I'll lose.
That's right. And it's in a prominent position in the layout, right? It's almost upper right-hand corner.
I don't know if it is very
Yep.
prominent. Earlier I didn't even know why I was losing, right? Because it's
That was
just
the first thing I saw when
I'm
we
looking
came in.
as the player though. I'm looking at this section and then over here because this is sort of
Right.
where I'm interacting with.
Yeah.
I'm checking. I'm sort of darting my eyes up to look basically at this.
Right. So dissonance, right?
Yeah.
So lots of visual distraction. Look here, look here, look here. Oh, you missed this bit over here.
Right. I think that's a rhetorical
think-
move there. I think it's hiding up there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hiding, waiting to bite you, is what it's doing.
So yeah, and I mean clearly the arrows here are indicative of price. I guess still. You would think that would be a dollar sign, so maybe not. Oh,
Where
Mexico
are the
City down
arrows?
here. Oh Lord, I wasn't even giving my dues to Mexico City.
One of the
Yeah.
things I'm
And
getting
Havana,
from the
now I see
gameplay
that.
here is
Yeah,
that
what, Matthew?
the urgency and the persistence that the game throws upon you elides or delays the question of morality in a way that maybe it's trying to express something similar about corporate ethics and the human beings who perform them.
Right. Yeah. When you're in a system that demands, well, I mean, think of stock trading floors where people are screaming at, in the old days when there still were stock trading floors, people will be screaming, buy and sell orders, and everything has to happen in a split second. That's a kind of metaphor for the reality of corporate management where lots of variables, it's all happening in real time, it's incredibly complex, and you live and die by the stock price. The other thing I'll notice is that as in just about every game, the trajectory leads to failure, right? It's most likely success here means staving off ultimate failure. It's not like you're gonna, it seems unlikely you'd be able to level up, and find a place where this game behaves differently.
Okay, so I figured out what the bar here is, and that is the city's oil demand.
Aha.
Seems to match up pretty well with what I'm seeing here. Oh wait, no, this would be okay. That's storage there, right? Up is storage, down is demand. Up is supply, right? Down is demand, right?
Okay.
Got it.
As your stock price ticks below $60.
Yeah, it's
Just say it.
I know. I'm working on it. All right, more. We're buying more oil. We need more.
I'm going to keep my eye on the stock price number just to see what the kill value is. What's the point at which we get fired, basically.
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I'm. I bet that is I don't know what that is.
The number I remember coming in when we started the game up was around $77, $78.
Okay.
And we're down below 55 now, and it's clear the trend is downward.
Look how my my budget here is laid out in incoming per second and outgoing per second.
Right. So the fluctuating numbers on the left, right under modest oil, would be your balance sheet, I think. Like how much it's your bank account, basically. I'm guessing. Of course, there's no tooltip or anything that tells you what anything is.
It is
Really
left.
interesting rhortorical choice. It's not people, it's souls. You mouse over a city. Yeah, it says 100,000, 1 million souls.
Huh. That is an interesting
Wow.
rhetorical point.
I didn't notice that. There it is.
There you go. I think it was $50. That's what I'm guessing.
That
but
sounds
maybe
about
it's
right. Like
differential.
I lose
Yeah.
25% of the value per share.
Out of someone, please think of the shareholder. That wasn't the same message we had last time? I don't know. Might have been.
I think maybe just the last one. The don't won't somebody think of the shareholders is
the shareholders. Yeah,
that's the variable line.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to go again? Do you want to look at something else? Do you want to chat about what we have?
Can we talk about that run before we? I think we do one more run at least. Did that seem to go longer? I'm not timing these, but it seemed to be more in the area of like 15 minutes even.
Yeah, I think so, because I very quickly sort of got through those very first movements that I've sort of compiled in my head through the iterations, and then I'm just sort of left with like okay, now what? So I think that's sort of that space where what has come prior and what is and the new play is very contingent on. I think that space is a space of particular contingency, and I don't know what else to say about it, but it's I think worth focusing on.
Well, and here's where live streaming and having like more than one person live stream and somebody watch the player gets interesting, because I'm watching you play, and what I'm seeing is this steady progression in your understanding of the affordances. So it's like, oh, I see, this does this, and the moment where you figured out the sliders, right, and you know what that's saying, oh, that's demand. It's like, the pieces are falling into place, but the whole time you're losing. It's like the more you learn, it's not helping.
And like, I found it a lot more. I got better at the game when I didn't have to talk about it. When you all were having a conversation, and I could just sort of focus on it and just go to like, okay. Just so the attention that I could sort of apply to it cognitively was necessary,
right?
And I guess sort of back in my mind, it's something I think that Wren said earlier. I think that sort of move to just absolutely overwhelm is sort of the goal. I think that's sort of the if we're talking MDA, that's the aesthetic that we're after. MDA is mechanics, dynamics, aesthetics, and it's something that game designers used to use. There's better, sort of more advanced iterations of it by now, but the idea that you can focus on the mechanics or the aesthetics, and you do that through the dynamics, but this is an aesthetic. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, right, and the aesthetics is definitely one of overload.
Right.
And I think we might also talk about something we could call cognitive shear, SHEAR, which is to say that, as you were saying, I'm down in the game. I'm just, I'm pressing the buttons. I'm figuring out what the affordances are. And as you do that, you're thinking less and less that this means things about oil. Right. Or this means things about, and then Wren comes in and goes like, hey, the cities have souls in them.
I see now. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So, all kinds of interesting stuff going on. I have to say for folks watching this later, it may be entirely valid to say this is just crappy game design. I mean, who would build a game that's this hard to play? And the reason we're not just saying, oh, who would make a game like this, is that we know that this design group, Molleindustria, they play with game design. That's what they're famous for. So we've sort of bought in, and I think legitimately, to the ground assumption that if this game is hard to play, there's a reason for it. It's not just a bunch of amateurs throwing things together and not knowing how to build a game. It's more the case of devious designers who want us to be put on the wrong foot. right? They want us to do what we normally do in playing games, which is what we're doing. But they also want us to become frustrated by that process. So
now I'm paying more attention to my demand here, and I'm noticing as Matamoros decreases their demand, I want to go down to
wait,
H
are you
characters.
playing again?
I am playing. Oh,
because
I'm so sorry.
I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I forgot the screen share.
Interfaces and interfaces. There we go. All right.
Okay. I've just started. I'm trying to go a little slower this time, actually, and not try to get the rush. So I've dug through a little bit at this oil derrick. Oil reserves and oil storage are pretty good. I think I can probably manage another truck. We'll get it all the way down there. Their demand has gone up, so actually they're closer. And I want that cash sooner, so let's just send them some trucks. And now let's see if I can buy. I'm still waiting.
This is another logic in the game. Stay local. Start local, build out. Yeah, game wants you to do that.
Alright, let's go ahead and dig a little deeper. And let's see if I can upgrade these things. Yeah. Get it going a little faster.
So your balance sheet is going up, or your bank account, if that's what that is, on the left, and your stock price is going down.
And I'm about to hit 50, so I'm about to lose pretty damn quickly. And I really don't like. I don't.
50 is the
I don't know enough about business.
Well, there you go.
So bad at it.
So we've learned 50 is probably the
business takes care of you. So you got it in there.
All right. Well, actually, that took no time, so maybe there's another couple of rounds.
Yeah, but I'd kind of like to do a little more talk.
Sure.
Maybe one more round, but I don't know. I'm just blundering into this idea, but what kind of a game do you think Molleindustria would build about the Ukrainian invasion?
Oh, that's a great question.
That's probably a stupid question, but
I mean, I think in a way this could be modified to be very relevant. Sort of just changing.
So we could talk about how you could modify this game.
Right. Yeah. I don't know how useful it is, because I feel like honestly we could make it work so well that doesn't take a lot. But thinking about the bigger conflict is really interesting.
You could probably reskin this game.
Right.
As a Ukrainian war game in a way, except that the fail condition is probably is the end of civilization. But yeah, I mean, it's that similar sense of too much happening all at once, and time, cycling off, and the overall trend being downward.
I think so. Your question makes me think of Francisco Gonzalez's September 12th, A Toy World. Am I getting that right?
Yeah. It's Gonzalo Frasca.
Yeah,
September 12th.
I was impressed that I recalled that much, honestly. But the way that he does that, it's a game where it takes place the day after September 11th, and the game is a single screen where you control a red sort of
Actually, Ryan, I got an idea.
You want me to pull it up?
Yeah, pull it up.
Okay.
Because this would be a great one to play.
I will try. It's
Java
Java-based, and I don't know.
Oh yes, yes, yeah. Might not work, but give it a. We can talk about how it works. Anyway.
Sure. Let me see real quick. I might actually have it saved. So basically, what I'm trying to get at is he employs a positive feedback loop, where what he is suggesting that the game would be a negative feedback loop.
It's a game about response to terrorists, essentially using armed drone technology. You're looking down at an isometric rendering of a Middle Eastern city, and there are people running around, little sprites running around, going about their business, and your mission is to isolate the terrorists and kill them using missiles or bombs or something. So you attack from the air, basically.
Well, if we're
Yes.
thinking about the Ukrainian conflict and what sort of game elements, what sorts of competing demands in our time that that sort of context would have, like this game, then there's two different games. You either play as Putin or you play as Zelensky.
Right.
Because if you're Putin, you've been, for whatever reason, you want to cleave your legacy after 2 years in a COVID bunker. And so you want to become a great man leader, but the problem is you're constrained by the institution that keeps you in power. You've got the oligarchs, you've got the technocrats, and you've got the military leaders, and you need to keep them all. Well, the point is that he's already on a ticking timer as to when there's a coalition amongst these groups to end him. So you've already got that temporal constraint. But then what's interesting is about how much the violent sort of crackdown on social media, etc., is keeping everything in line, even though things are terrible in Russian society. For the every person, you can't use Google Pay. All of these sanctions are eroding everyday life. So you would have a game in which all of these constraints are so low all of the time, but you just have to stop them from all depleting all at once. It would never be a game in which things get into the green era. It would be about balancing reds,
Yes.
in order to achieve your timed goals, I think.
Yes. And the difference between that and Oiligarch that we were just playing is you might, surviving long enough might be a win. Right? In Oiligarch, we're going to lose one way or the other. But thanks. Those are, and that leads me to wonder what the Zelensky game would be.
Yeah, that's a true. Good question.
What's interesting is I think just the nature of games and video games in particular are so much more geared toward telling the story from the aggressor, in a way. I think. Yep. I mean, I don't know if it's clearly tons of examples where that's not exactly.
I mean, as I said, this is I mean, you saw that. Can you move the reticule? Yeah. Okay. That's a target site.
Right.
I mean, we're. Yeah.
And what's interesting about the target site and the movement here is that it's a little bit indirect. I click where I want to shoot, but it doesn't happen immediately. I've got to wait for the missile, so it's almost impossible to hit the thing that you're trying to hit. And clearly, the feedback loop is every time that you try to get rid of some, it actually increases more. So you're getting further away from this start point where there were only a few bad apples.
Yeah, and again, I will say, very, very deliberately, carefully designed game. I actually know Gonzalo Frasca, who designed this game. I was actually on his dissertation committee.
Oh, that's right. I think I knew that. Actually.
Yeah, for his second PhD. He got 2 PhDs. He's a smart dude. And he was already famous at the time. This game made him hugely famous because there's a trick to this game, and that is, shooting is bad in that no matter who you target, whether you think they're terrorists or not, you're going to create more terrorists.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
Yep.
I'm really interested in sort of talking about maybe the difference in design between those two games is this screen at the beginning of the game where it sets out for you what this game's about. Right. I hope that's readable. It's very small on my screen and I really can't zoom in, but it says this is not a game. It says
instructions.
Okay. Yeah. This is not a game. You can't win or you can't win and you can't lose. This is a simulation and has no ending. It has already begun. The rules are deadly simple. You can shoot or not. This is a simple model you can use to explore some aspects of the war on terror. And here we have the terrorist model and civilians, which, are very, so
this is your target and these aren't. But you'll end up hitting the wrong people as this goes. It's really interesting that Gonzalo says not a game.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole, there's a target reticule and you shoot things. And boy, is that a game. But it isn't. You can't win. You can only lose. It's a simulation.
I think, though, I don't think he's being literal in the game. I think maybe he's using game as in sort of a cultural, parlance. Like, don't expect to win this. But I still think, like sort of in my head, it's still very much a game because it's still, it's still allowing playfulness in this set of, this architecture of code, basically.
Yeah, but Gonzalo, who may in fact have been the person who made up the name ludology, which is the study of games and play, the sort of modern study of games and play that came about around 2000. Gonzalo is really interested in what makes something a game and what isn't a game, and what other things there are that we can do that aren't games but are playable. So,
I mean, he does call this a toy world.
Yeah, toy world. Yeah,
it's not a game.
That's
it's a
the
toy,
other thing, right?
I don't know. I think he's wrong.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting toy.
Yeah,
it's a toy out of which comes misery. The child who would play with a toy like this is clearly, a psychopath. But I should also say, Fresca's a Uruguayan, so not an American,
right?
And he's got a lot of skepticism about American military power. And in some ways, it's interesting to play this game in conjunction with our recent speculation here about Ukraine, because here it's us, it's Americans dropping bombs on a city, and we're all freaking out about Putin doing this to Ukrainian cities, but conveniently forgetting that we've been in that business too. Not to say that there's any kind of equivalency or justification, just historical fact.
Right.
We are 1 minute away from the hour.
All right.
And, maybe we should wrap up. Ryan, any thoughts? Any overall reflections?
Yeah, I think. It's something that Wren said earlier about maybe back to our discussion of the roguelike. I really think part of what comes about, I think part of where we get at learning more about games is thinking about them comparatively and looking at some games that do maybe similar things but in different ways, maybe get at certain ideas in different ways. It's really sort of the idea. I think that's where the real potential of video games can come from, is this sort of multifaceted authorship where every text that we're looking at is somehow slightly skewed from our normal everyday life, and all of that together sort of creates this amalgamation of different perspectives in a very idealized world anyway. And maybe thinking about how getting at the nitty-gritty and thinking honestly on even a pretty basic level about what this game does that this other game doesn't, sort of like in this elementary style way that I've learned the oil game. Just
right.
Like really sort of getting down and descriptive about, okay, well, I do this and that moves that, and then sort of what kind of system is that? How does that system work in this or to this other purpose? And then it just explodes from there, and we can start appreciating games maybe a little bit more deeply, and ideally start making more games that attend to the things that we care about.
Yep, great. Thanks so much. Why don't we stop the recording now?
Sure thing. All right. Thanks, everybody.